Daniel Boone was a master at wilderness navigation. He may have been confused for several weeks, but a majority of us today consider ourselves lost after just several minutes. And when we become lost, it is search and rescue teams that come to our aid. I'm going to discuss the idea that properly preparing before heading out into the woods will reduce the need to contact search and rescue. But if you do need to call them, they'll have pertinent information to be able to find you even faster. Each year, millions of Americans venture into the wilderness. They find themselves in an environment where an ambulance doesn't arrive in 5 minutes, and there's no easy directions back to your car. They may find themselves lost, injured, or totally in the dark, without any thought of what to do next. In 1996, Grand Canyon National Park experienced twice as many search and rescue incidences as they had in 1983, a time span of only 13 years. Seeing ever-increasing numbers, the National Park Service implemented a program called PSAR, or Preventative Search and Rescue. It was a proactive attempt to be able to educate park visitors and to decrease the number of search and rescues. As you can see, PSAR has been a fantastic success. As many park rangers will tell you, it isn't the one big mistake that people have that causes an incident. It's the many small mistakes leading up to it. And the first small mistake may be leaving home thinking, nothing's going to happen to me. So here's a few questions that you probably ask yourself before you leave for a hike. Am I going to get wet, cold, or dirty? Is a tick going to find me delicious? Am I going to like or want to strangle my hiking mates? Here's a few better proactive questions to ask. Am I going to get hurt? The most common injury is to your lower extremities, making it very difficult to travel over uneven ground, and it may slow you down considerably. Am I prepared to spend an unexpected night in the woods? If you get hurt or lost, it may be the next morning before somebody comes to find you. Which leads you to, can I await a rescue? Here's a critical thing to remember. On average, it takes 3 hours for search and rescue teams to get to you. And that's after they know that you need rescuing. So let's imagine you go on a hike, but you haven't told anyone where you're going or what time you're expected to return. It's your first time on this trail, so it's taking a little longer than expected. It's getting dark, and your flashlight, also known as your cell phone, is not going to make it back to the car. Are you prepared to build a shelter, to start a fire, to make drinkable water? Probably not. If you would have told someone where you were going, they could have called 911 for you, but you didn't. So let's take a look at the skills, tools, and gear that will help you be safer, more confident, and hopefully survive to be rescued. Skills are more important than gear. You can have gear with you, but if you don't know how to use it, it's going to be worthless. So first things first, build skills before leaving home. To prioritize what skills to learn first, let's take a look at the survival rule of threes as an optimistic guideline. In 3 hours, you're going to need shelter and warmth. In 3 days, you're going to need drinkable water. So let's take a look at shelter, warmth, and water. These skills are easy to learn, and with a little practice, they shouldn't be too hard to master. Any advanced Boy Scout or YouTube video will teach you. The American Red Cross also offers first aid courses. They offer a basic one, and if you really want to get serious, they offer a 2-day wilderness first aid course. The key is to practice these skills before leaving home, because it's a lot easier to make mistakes in your backyard than it is during a wilderness emergency. Some of the best ways that I've found to learn is through books and movies. Two of my favorites are the Hatchet series by Gary Paulson that are written for young adults, and the movie Castaway. So go outside, pretend you're lost, build a shelter, start a fire, make drinkable water. So what about tools? The best tool that you have is your brain. So at the very least, use that brain to tell someone where you're going and what time you're going to return. That way, if you can't use your cell phone for rescue, someone else will have your back. Even better, tell someone what trails you're going to take, what you're wearing, and where your car is parked. And even better than that, leave a written record of that information on your vehicle's dashboard. I've asked park rangers and police, and they assure me they have ways of getting into your vehicle. So simply write that information on one side of a piece of paper, fold it over, write SAR information on the top, and they'll know where to look. To further utilize that thing known as your brain, think calmly with humility. If you try to rush into a solution, you may make more small mistakes. So just slow down and think. Remain calm, conserve energy, and act within your capabilities. Speaking of acting within your capabilities, here are the 3 most dangerous words that you can say in the wilderness. I'm just going. A search and rescue volunteer once told me the story of a gentleman, upon arriving in the Alaska wilderness, told his friends, I'm just going over there. I'll be right back. And he simply disappeared. They needed to call search and rescue. They were able to find the man after 3 days by helicopter. He was so hypothermic when they found him that he walked right past the helicopter in an almost comatose state. So if you or one of your friends says, I'm just going, think instead, I'm just going to possibly die. And adjust your plans accordingly. So we've talked about skills and tools. What gear would you want to take with you on any adventure into the woods? Bring a light source. I've spoken with park rangers, conservation officers, and I've asked them, what's the one item that you wish people brought with them into the woods? And they overwhelmingly tell me, bring a flashlight. Followed quickly by, your cell phone is not a flashlight. So bring a real flashlight or headlamp and use lithium batteries because they last much longer and work a lot better in the cold. You've honed your skills on map and compass reading, so you have to have them with you to be able to use them. Actually print or buy a physical map and bring a dependable compass. Do not depend on your cell phone's compass. Even a little bit of rope will help build a shelter or even help rescue people. It doesn't have to be thick and heavy. It just needs to be a rope that you can knot and unknot easily. Now, once you've read the Hatchet series, you'll never go into the woods again without a hatchet or a knife. A sharp hatchet and knife will allow fire and shelter building to be so much easier, and you'll more safely gather materials. An emergency sack or blanket will conserve body heat and keep you warm. Weighing mere ounces, it's one of the most important items to have with you. Having at least 2 forms of fire starting can be a lifesaver. Fires can have a calming effect, they can raise your spirit, and of course, they can keep you warm. I bring along windproof and waterproof matches. I also bring along a butane lighter, but beware about butane lighters because sometimes they do not work well in temperatures that are below freezing. A neat little trick is to bring along cotton balls that are coated with petroleum jelly. They're extremely easy to light. Hand warmers are now inexpensive, lightweight, and last a long time. Another easy-to-use item to bring along. Some people forgo these in the summertime, but if you head to the mountains, remember this. Hypothermia is the #1 killer in any season, including summertime. First aid kits come in many different configurations, from small personal kits up to large group kits that weigh many pounds. Here are my suggestions. Bring a Band-Aid and some larger pads with you. Bring antiseptic cream to keep the critters from going in, and bring a tick remover for getting the critters out. Benadryl, which will help with any types of plants that can make you itchy. Ibuprofen for pain management, moleskin for the inevitable blister, and floss and a tampon, which both have a lot more uses in wilderness settings. In addition to that, I also bring a small foldable pamphlet with easy-to-understand directions for first aid. A bandana can be used as a sling, a tourniquet, stopping bleeding, can be used as sun protection, and if it's soaked in water, can help alleviate heat exhaustion. Another one of those incredibly versatile things to have with you. And don't forget to bring a self-adhesive ACE bandage, as it helps with any joint injuries that you might have. If you've ever cheered for your favorite sports team for too long, you know what happens to your voice. Prolonged shouting will make you go hoarse, and you may not have your voice when you need it. A whistle gets rescuers' attention. I've found that the cheaper the whistle, the louder it is. But make sure that you purchase a plastic peeless whistle. A plastic whistle because you don't want metal against your lips when it's cold weather. And peeless because those little peas will actually freeze to the inside of the whistle in temperatures that are below freezing. And finally, how to make drinkable water. Water pumps and water straws can now be purchased for as little as $15. But just make sure that you purchase one that gets rid of both dangerous viruses and bacteria. If you don't treat your water properly, you may end up in worse shape than not having drank any water at all. So to alleviate this, bring additional water with you, along with additional food and clothing, just in case you're spending that additional night in the woods. So as a rule of thumb, try and keep as many of these items on your body as possible and not in your backpack. That way, if you become separated from your backpack, you'll have those items when you need them. Always look for a reason to turn around. If you turn around, you'll keep yourself from making those small little mistakes. Speaking of turning around, some of the best and most entertaining stories come from not making it to your destination. Your friends and family will be much more curious. They may ask, what happened? Why did you turn around? Did anybody get hurt? Did you see Bigfoot? Here's my turnaround story. My friend Willie and I attempted to summit Mount Washington. Summit conditions at 6,200 feet were frigid with 0 degrees wind chill. We made it up to 5,000 feet, but because of cloud cover and 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts, we were unable to continue. In fact, the wind ended up picking Willie up, all 220 pounds of him, and throwing him to the ground. After that, 140-pound me stayed very close to the ground after that. On our descent, we encountered a rather argumentative couple. The man was dressed for winter conditions. The woman, unfortunately, was not. She was cold and wanted to turn around. The gentleman looked at her and said, "I didn't come all this way to turn around," left her on the trail, and continued to ascend. Well, chivalry was not dead that day on Mount Washington. We decided to take her down with us to safer and warmer climes. Here's a photo of her. Identity masked to protect the innocent. Had she checked the weather at the trailhead, we hope she surely would have dressed a little bit differently. But because we turned around, even to this day, we still talk about not making it to the top and helping her down. Which leads me to another critical point. You want to stay together on the trail. You're going to be much safer. And one would hope that 2 or more brains will be better than one when it comes to decisions in the wilderness. So stay alert, especially if you need additional privacy when Mother Nature calls. Hikers have been known to get lost after finishing up and then realizing they don't know where the trail is. So in conclusion, remember that you take your friends and family concern with you whenever you go out into the wilderness. You take their love and hope that you return safely. Think, I might not make it back, instead of, I'm just going. So prepare your skills, your tools, and your gear before heading out in the woods, and you're much more likely to return safely to your friends and loved ones. And the search and rescue folks can stay home with their friends and family, and sometimes furry friends too. Thank you.